What's going on, guys? My name is Creepstar, and today I have a very interesting story for you guys, and it's about my involvement with the Christopher Dorner manhunt that happened here in California. If you guys do not know who Christopher Dorner is, he's an ex-L.A.P.D officer that was released from the L.A.P.D when he accused of his training officer that he was doing some corrupt stuff, and a few years later he actually wrote a manifesto about what kind of things he was going to do to the LAPD and their families, and he wrote a whole thing on his Facebook, and it talked about everything the LAPD did that was corruptive, and he went into great detail on what he was going to do to the LAPD and his families and all that stuff. So you guys can go ahead and search it on the internet. I'm sure you guys will find it if you guys want to learn more about that. It's some very interesting stuff on there. But anyways, the first murder in this whole Christopher Dorner manhunt thing was actually in Irvine, where he actually killed the daughter of an ex-LAPD officer and her fiance, and that's where it all started happening in Irvine. And since then, they were looking for Christopher Dorner. Now, the next shooting with the LAPD happened in Corona, California, and that's where I was actually involved somewhat, in a way. I was driving down Magnolia around 1 o'clock, 1:10, 1:15, around there, and I was coming back from a hockey game and stuff with my brother-in-law, and I dropped him off at his house. And I always come down Magnolia. That's the way I come after I drop him off. And around that time, I was about to get on the 15 freeway, and I saw a cop car a little bit ahead of the freeway, and figured it was a normal police traffic stop or whatever the case might be. And as I was getting onto the freeways, when I noticed the cop was trying to get my attention, so I stopped. And he went ahead and asked me if I could call 911, that they had just been in a shootout and they had an officer that was shot in the head. So at that moment I was like, oh shit, reacted right away, pulled out my phone, called 911, give them our description, location, what had happened, and they had some ambulance coming on the way. And that officer that pulled me over, asked if he could talk to the dispatch to send more officers down the way and talk, police talk, whatever they got to do. And that's when I kind of figured out what was going on, because he actually was talking to the dispatch operator and told her, what, we're not Corona PD, we're LAPD, and we've been pursuing the murder suspect that was on the news today. Now, that's when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, like shit just got serious. I mean, it wasn't already. I kind of figured they ran into some little gangbangers or something that turned around and started shooting at them. But knowing that they're messing around with the guy that has murdered already, and I mean, this guy's intentions are clear, that he just wants to murder, that just changes everything. So I was like really alert after that. And during the time, the officers were discussing if the guy was going to come back and finish the job. And that's when I was kind of paying attention more to my surroundings. So after he called, was done with the phone with the 911 dispatch operator, he asked me if he could use my phone to go ahead and call his superior, and he had to report what was going on. And I was like, dude, whatever you need, I'm here to help. You need to use the phone, take it, do whatever you got to do. Whatever you guys need, I'll help you guys with, because that's how I felt at the time. I just wanted to help out in whatever way I could, and that's what I was there for. So I went ahead and told him go for it. And I didn't even notice in the very beginning, but the officer that actually pulled me down was actually the officer that was shot in the head. He had blood dripping down the side of his face, and it was pretty intense. I did for a second, I was all like, don't get blood on my phone. Nah, I was just kidding about that. I didn't care. Blood, whatever, wipe it down later. And when he was on the phone and everything, his partner came over, opened up his vest, make sure he wasn't shot in the stomach or anything like that. And you could just tell how intense the situation was. I mean, it was pretty crazy. So I don't want to repeat some of the stuff the officers were saying, but it was intense. I kind of felt like I was in the End of Watch movie. I don't know, that's what it kind of reminded me of, just how serious the situation was. And even them talking about the guy was going to come back to try to finish the job was pretty scary. I don't know, because a car came down from the other side of Magnolia, and when we saw the car lights, and at that time they started taking cover behind the freeway barricade that's right there. And it was just intense. You didn't know what was going to happen, and it was a pretty crazy night. And I don't know, I'm kind of glad that I was there to help out in any way possible, making sure They got an ambulance there quicker by calling 911 and getting them help. And I don't know, maybe me just being there, my presence put them a little bit more at ease, just in case we needed to take off in the car anywhere, go to the hospital, whatever the case might have been. um, it feels good to know that I helped out in some way. And so after all that, and the ambulance got there really quick. Corona PD responded real fast. They were there in a matter of minutes, and it was pretty crazy. Once they all got there, it was good to know that at least there was backup, and they'd be able to handle the situation if anything else had occurred at that time. And so I mean, his partner came over, shook my hand, thanked me for helping out, and doing all that I did for them, and that was really cool. Really felt appreciated right there. It was pretty cool, but at the time I didn't really care about nothing. I just wanted to help them out in whatever way possible. And a couple other Corona PD guys came over and shook my hand, thanking me for helping a fellow cop out and stuff, and that was pretty cool. But I didn't catch the name of the officer that was actually shot in the head, the guy that's waved me down. I just forgot it at the time. He told me, but just trying to be aware of my surroundings and everything, I didn't catch his name. But it would be cool to get in contact with them and just maybe see how he's doing and everything like that, because I don't know, it was pretty crazy. I mean, after that whole thing happened, I went home. It took me about like an hour and a half to get out of that whole situation right there. They had to take down my report, what I saw and all that good stuff. And it was just crazy though. I mean, the police car was shot up. I mean, the windows were all shot out. The car had holes all over it. It looked crazy. I mean, after I finally figured out what was happening, after we called 911 and all that, and I saw the car, I mean, it was just shot up. I'm guessing that's why they didn't want to go next to their car, because in case this guy came back to try to finish off the job, and they probably didn't want to be around their vehicle at the time. So it was just crazy that night. And unfortunately, when Corona PD got there, they hauled ass down Magnolia, and at the time I thought they were just gonna go try to find the guy, but unfortunately he had drove down Magnolia and ran into some cops in Riverside, and actually shot them both up, and one officer ended up passing away and the other one was in critical condition. So it was a pretty crazy night, I might say. Going home and watching the news was pretty intense, watching everything that was happening. And I kind of wanted to talk to that L.A.P.D officer that was shot in the head, just because watching on the news, they kept saying that the guy that was shot in the Corona shooting passed away, and I was upset at the time, because I was like, oh, that can't be. I saw him, I was talking to him, he was coherent, and his partner said he was gonna be okay, everything was gonna be good. And it was pretty crazy intense when they kept announcing, like, oh, the Corona PD officer, the police officer in Corona had passed away, and I was all like, that can't be true. And I don't know, I kind of wanted to call the news, but I didn't really want to let them know that it wasn't him. But after a few hours later, they finally reported that it was actually the Riverside officer that passed away. I mean, it doesn't make it any better, but just thinking that the guy that I was helping out a few hours ago had passed away, it was pretty crazy in my head. So it was good to hear that he was okay. Unfortunate for the other police officers that did lose their lives. I think there was about 2 more officers that ended up dying from gunshot wounds later on. They did catch Christopher Dorner later on in Big Bear in a cabin. They burned down the cabin, I think, and I shot him. I think he was dead. But pretty crazy story, if you ask me. It kind of feels like a movie. It seemed like a movie at the time. So anyways, that's the story I wanted to share with you guys. I thought you guys might be interested in it. So if you guys enjoyed the video, guys, share it with a friend, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.